most athletic of the categories in Olympic competition. I mean, it blows my mind. But again, this is
Now
why
he
like
now
this is
he's
what
becoming transgendered. Oh, okay.
but
Sorry.
bum.
All right. Sorry.
No,
Had
but this
to.
is what I always tell people. As Jennifer and I, we live in celebrity land here in Southern California, and you find yourself just living daily life with these people. And the industry really is Southern California life. The way that politics is DC life, the industry here kind of rules it fuels everything else. You find yourself around these people a lot. And one thing I always tell people, like my liberal friends, a lot of times will post comments from, I don't know, like just pick anybody, Jay-Z or Kanye, or talking about the President Obama, or talking about world politics, and they're like, yeah, look how smart this person is. And I always want to tell people, these are not the people that you should be getting your political cues and opinions from. It's fine that you like them and enjoy them, and it's fun to like hear what they have to say about certain issues. But if you're going to model yourself after them, don't. These people voluntarily work in an industry that is racist, sexist, and breaks people down and makes people commodities and strips them of their humanity in every way you possibly can. That is the industry of Hollywood. If you want to see a more blatant example of racism, look at a casting call for a commercial. Commercial casting calls are even more racial than movie or film casting calls, because commercials are highly researched. Everything you see in a commercial has a purpose, even the color of the walls or the color of the pants a mom is wearing. So you'll look at a breakdown for a casting call for a commercial, and it will say like, need African American mother, not too ghetto, must speak clearly and properly. Like, you'll see those kind of commercial
you just
ads.
have to turn off the ghetto when you're going.
Yeah, I mean that's the industry, and I don't have a problem with it because there's a lot of money in it. You can get a job working in it, great, good for you. I'm just saying these aren't the people that we should be holding up as like examples of how we come to be our better selves and how we have a better marriage. No, these are broken people, and they work in an industry that feeds off of their brokenness.
So, do you really think that should kids really look up to Brian Williams as an example of a journalist now?
Well, I think if you want your kids to really be imaginative and dig into their creativity, then yeah, Brian Williams is a great example. He's got a great imagination.
Well, yeah, no, I'll be honest about Bri Wyatt. I like Bri Wyatt. I think he's entertaining beyond the fact that but to hear about this, it breaks my little heart because I want him fired now. Like, I love Bri Wyatt. I thought it was funny, all the stuff he was doing on Fallon, and I mean, he's okay with making fun of himself. And to find out this stuff about him, it's just like, no forgiveness, man. I'm sorry. Like, you go off and you make essentially this is a I don't want to say too much of a case of stolen valor, but it's similar to it in that he suggests that he was under fire the same way troops fighting in Iraq were, and I'm sorry, man. There's no coming back from this. You need to ride off into the sunset and do your own thing, and I mean, it's ridiculous. So
that's the problem with things like this. I agree, Scott, that he's a very personable guy. And he's certainly worked hard to get where he is. I mean, you can't deny him that. But this is the problem that we have with the mainstream media in general. And again, this is a case of these aren't celebrities we're talking about. These aren't the Kim Kardashians and the Bruce Jenners of the world. These are the people that actually are tasked with bringing us our news. They're the only people that have the keys to the kingdom, so to speak. I mean, or at least traditionally. Now, new media is coming up and changing that. But even still, these people are in our homes every night. They are speaking to millions and millions of people. They have a platform that you and I don't have. We expect them to deliver us the information we need to make judgments about what's happening in the world and in our nation. So it is a big deal. It's not just everybody makes mistakes. Everybody tells those little white lies. Everyone embellishes. I get that. But in this case, this is the same thing as if the pastor of your church were caught having an affair with someone in his congregation. There can be forgiveness there, but he cannot lead anymore, because then now what's at stake is the information that goes out to people. And that's the thing about this whole Brian Williams thing. It's, if he were a regular person, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Even if he was just a radio host, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But he is a journalist. He is a straight up journalist. He is the guy that is supposed to give you the hard facts. And what we have found out is that he will lie. He's willing to lie on national television. He's willing to lie to his viewers to make himself look better. So a reporter, once that is revealed, can never be trusted again. And that's just
done.
The way it is.
He's done. When Tom Brokaw comes out this morning and says, Brian Williams should be fired, he's done. I'm sorry that, I mean, Tom Brokaw still wears the pants there. Anytime he wants to do anything, they give him the opportunity. And I think that Brian Williams is seeing the last few days be sitting behind the anchor desk, at least for several years.
Hold up. There's this new story just now on CNN where the pilot that was interviewed by CNN about this story, that he's no longer standing by his story, saying he said, the information I gave you was true based on my memories, but at this point I am questioning my memories. So the pilot is now going, oh, well, maybe I was wrong. So that puts a whole new...
Some of the other pilots are now saying, or other soldiers, I read that article earlier, and they're saying that he definitely wasn't on any of the two helicopters, but he was on one that was within a few minutes or within a couple hundred yards of where these helicopters were forced down. And so, but the story is, the bottom line is, he was not hit by his helicopter, Brian Williams, was not hit by an RPG. And it's not just that story, but also now there are numerous stories that they're questioning what he said about stuff like his Katrina stories, where he was saying, well, he got dysentery and there were bodies floating by in the street.
Right.
But now they're going back and realizing, wait a second, the hotel where you stayed at, the streets weren't flooded. And in addition, we have no reported cases of dysentery in that area. So what's going on? So now every story that he's ever done that has had any type of heroic nature or dangerous nature will be called into question, and then anything he will do in the future will be called into question. So, yeah. Was he playing Oregon Trail?
Our producer Jess, we have a Skype chat going on. We're doing this, and she says, dysentery. Was he playing Oregon Trail?
Oh my goodness.
Oh man.
But this is what we've seen over and over again, right, guys? Especially during the Bush administration, which had a lot of successes, and generally speaking, globally speaking, we were still enjoying a fair amount of peace. I mean, we had our wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, but those were mostly prosecuted by us. And they were for a specific reason, terrorism. I mean, now everything, like everywhere, is melting down. But during that time, there were a lot of stories that the press wanted to see and wished were happening. And so what you saw was people going out and making the stories. And this is the problem. And the Brian Williams case it's not as significant in his career as it is as a larger commentary on the problem with the mainstream media in general, which is these are people that used to be, the idea of being a journalist used to be that you went out and held government accountable and held the mechanics of society accountable by making sure people had all the information of the goings on. Now, what their job is to kind of bring down people. And so they have to make things up to get the story when the story isn't there. Ratings depend on it. Ad revenue depends on it. You can't go to Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans and run a story about the great job that the National Guard has been doing there.
No, because Bush was in charge. You can't do that.
You can't run that story. It has to be you can't run a story about how all the people that were, quote, trapped there actually did have a way out, but they didn't want to go. Yeah.
But then, of course, when something like Sandy hits and Obama's in charge, it's all about how the government's trying to help these people.
Right. You can't, and so there's no.
And Chris Christie
there.
giving him a bear hug.
Yes.
Yeah. No. It really comes down to the fact that our media no longer holds government accountable. They held Republicans accountable. And while I'm not necessarily opposed to people of my own party being called out for crap they're doing, because obviously it's important that we keep things legitimate within government, I also hope that there would be liberals that would wish to do the same thing about their heroes or their people within their party. One way or the other, it just comes down to the fact that media is not what it used to be. Brian Williams will never be a Walter Cronkite. I think that as liberal as Brokaw is, that he at least tried to maintain his semblance of a moderate viewpoint in producing the news. But I think that other than that, I think journalism is dead.
I think you're right, or at least it's evolved into something else. But one thing I want to tell you guys, or suggest to you guys, recommend to you guys, is a book. My friend Tracy Connors from FTR Radio recommended this to me. It's a book written by Mark Leibowitz, who used to write for, I think, Politico and did some work for CBS for a while, and is a journalist in DC inside the Beltway. And he wrote this book called This Town, and it opens up. It's a biography of sorts. It opens up on the funeral for Tim Russert, and it's a complete expose on the way inside the Beltway reporting works. And you start to see that all of these people that bring you your nightly news and are supposed to be doing the research into this administration or any other, they're all married to the TV producers. Yep. They're married to each other. They're married to people in the White House. They're married to people that are in politics. Like, it's a big cluster. And so all it is just people telling the same stories over and over and over again, because they run in all the same circles. It's completely incestuous. So objectivity certainly is dead.
Well, and I think that it also, the people that are attracted to do something like that, like Brian Williams, I was telling Jess, it reminds me of a South Park episode called The Last of the Mohicans, where they were playing Border Patrol. And one of the kids got so into the game that he just totally stayed in character. He never came in that night, ended up just having all these adventures. And to me, someone like Brian Williams is like that, where he's having all these adventures. It's like it's a game, and so whatever's happening isn't good enough, and he's making all of this up as he goes along as some kind of whacked entertainment. No concern for the consequences.
Hey, where did an hour go?
I know. Kara, thank you so much for staying on for the rest of that.
You're welcome. It was fun.
And I'm glad we got to talk some some Daily Mail. You want to wrap us up, Scott?
Yes, we're so grateful. Sounds right. This is...
And Scott's cutting out.
Yeah. Well, you can follow me at Kira Davis on Twitter.
And you can
Show.
Kira Ein Davis. Thank you, Sounds Right. You guys are great.
Talk to you next week.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
This show is copyright by VLR Media. All opinions of panelists and guests are their own and may not reflect the opinion of VLR Media, the host, or anyone else.